let's talk about tantrums versus meltdowns. Are they different? Are they just the same thing? Are we splitting hairs? And what do we do? How do we deal with these big, challenging, behaviory moments? Maybe our kids are lashing out. Maybe they are saying or doing hurtful things or being dangerous, whatever that stuff is. Let's talk about that in this episode. So I feel like for a long time, I would see so many different posts and articles and, tips and things on how to handle tantrums versus meltdowns because they were different and they looked different and they had different motives. I think a lot of parents feel that tantrums are more intentional, more willful, and almost like thought out, like their child has an intention to get what they want. So they're using this behavior to, get some food, get some attention, get the iPad, get TV, or get away from something. I don't want to do this. I don't want to bath. I don't want to do my homework. Whatever that is, they're trying to get their point across and they're trying to basically get what they want. So that sounds very manipulative. It doesn't sound like that is going to elicit, our warmth and our understanding and our compassion and our patience. So I totally get that. And that's a big reason why I don't like the word tantrum, because it just invites this manipulative kind of tone, I think. Meltdowns, on the other hand, I feel like a lot of us see those as more dysregulation, as the body has taken over, the child is overwhelmed, out of their depth, can't function, and maybe less, so they're less in their right mind and less putting it on intentionally or willfully. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to come from obviously the emotional intelligence standpoint, and you guys know that everything I talk about and all of my strategies and approaches and everything like that is backed by science, and it's underpinned by what we know about particularly neuroscience, so the brain development, and the nervous system now as well, which really has kind of come to the forefront, I think, of parenting and just on the map in general in the last even like 10 years. It's much more new. It's much newer than what we kind of know about the brain. So 90s was when we really started seeing a lot coming out of, studies and research and things about the brain and MRI scans and everything. But yeah, the nervous system is kind of that next level, I think, that really, really helps us to understand children's behavior and tantrums and meltdowns. So I will go on record saying I don't care about the difference between tantrums and meltdowns. I don't see a difference. I don't like seeing the child and their behavior through this lens of manipulating or not, or trying to get their needs met or not, or trying to intentionally communicate something with their behavior. I think we're giving kids way too much credit. That sounds really bad. I think we're giving them way too much credit when they are in that state of crumbling and falling in a heap, as in mentally, emotionally, physically probably too. I think we are giving them too much credit with what they're able to do cognitively in those moments. I always kind of bring this back to myself and other adults and think, when I'm really stressed and I am overwhelmed, or I have tons of things going on under my iceberg, I am not at the point, like my behavior is not a reflection of me calmly and carefully and intentionally trying to manipulate people or manipulate a situation. I'm just stressed and I'm dealing with things the best that I can. and in those moments, it's not very good. So I see kids really dealing with things the same, but just not anywhere near as much as a mature level as what we can do. Right, because we know their brains are not as sophisticated as ours. We literally know that about brain development now. I want to mention here the work of Dr. Ross Green, who does incredible work over in the US and Canada, I believe. So around those, you guys who are in those places are lucky, because you've got him to, there are so much work he does, so many workshops. I've done a 2-day training with him on his collaborative and proactive solutions method. I have one of his books, which is called The Explosive Child. It's just sitting behind me. And it's something I refer parents to a lot. Not necessarily when they have explosive kids, because my two are not explosive, 95% of the time. However, it is this approach, the collaborative and proactive solutions approach, is so productive and beneficial and powerful for parents to use with their kids. And in it, the reason why I'm talking about this is because he describes, he hits the nail on the head with the lens through which we need to see our kids, particularly in these challenging moments. So when they are having what we might call a tantrum or a meltdown, we need to see them through this lens of our child is doing the best that they can under the circumstances that they're in, and with the capacity, the cognitive capacity or the tools that they have. Let's just say that, right? They're doing the best that they can. I often kind of tweak that quote and I say, your child is doing the best that they can with the brain that they have. And nothing is more true than that. And at the same time, they can be really not doing very well with the brain that they have, and it can be very frustrating for us, especially when a tantrum or a meltdown is happening. So I love that he sees behaviours in this lens. He calls behaviours a smoke signal. It's just what we see on the surface level. So if you think your child is having what we would call, or what some would call, a tantrum because you have just said, no, you can't have that third cookie, or yes, you must do your homework, and then they start to grumble and get cranky and irritable, and then you ask them to pick up that thing they dropped or put their plate in the sink, and they say no, and then there's a back and forth, well, come on, I've asked you to, and they say I don't want to, and then it just things usually spiral downwards and implode. We can see sometimes our child is having a tantrum because they know that we have said no, or that they have to do something, and yet they're still pushing, or they're just not accepting my no or my request to do something. So what I want to bring to your attention here is that even though our child, however this situation may start out, our kids have a very, like a hair trigger, they're very easily pulled into this state of dysregulation where they lose access to that more thoughtful, logical, rational part of their brain that can problem solve, that can maybe perspective take a little bit, that has access to some empathy, for other people, and also the ability to communicate clearly their emotions, regulate their emotions. So very quickly our kids can lose that, and what may start out as, it might seem intentional. We said no, and then they're, nagging or begging. Whatever that is, know that however it starts, your child can very quickly move into a meltdown. That's why I just don't really even need to see a difference. I don't see that there is a need to see a difference. I think if we come back to that notion from Dr. Ross Green, our kids are doing the best that they can in any moment of the day, based on what's going on under their iceberg, what's happening in the current situation, and their level of skills. So 3-year-old, 13-year-old, it doesn't matter. They're going to be trying to handle that as best as they can. So how do we deal with our kids in these moments? Well, it may not surprise you for me to say, number one, we always need to turn our focus inward first and look at ourselves and have an awareness of, am I managing my emotions in this moment, or am I about to have my own tantrum or my own meltdown? Now, keep in mind, obviously an adult meltdown looks differently to a kid's. Okay, it might not look that different. We might actually, yell and scream and things like that, say and do things we regret. But it might also be a more contained adult meltdown in the fact that, I would have, and sometimes still do, if I'm really stressed or upset, I will shut down and go into stonewall, not talking, want to withdraw my connection and relationship with people. Like I will, put up that wall, and it's like I had a friend, and we used to joke about this, like we would become ice queens. So you just couldn't get through. So that's a potential adult version of a kid's tantrum. You're behaving how I don't like, or you're not doing what I have asked you to do, and so I am not going to speak to you. You are dead to me, basically. Right? So still, very unhelpful behavior and not very mature of us, but we do it. So if some of you have heard my recent episode on our sometimes hypocritical habits as parents, this is kind of touching on that. So in either case, what I want to say, in either case, if you think your child's having a meltdown, if you think they're having a tantrum, I really want you to, number one, let go of that. Let go of the discerning and is my child intentionally putting this on? Because as we know, our child's brain is under construction at the best of times, right? So they are going to be, trying to meet that expectation, trying to meet the situation's expectations or meet the demands of that situation with kind of the, under construction, I guess, brain and nervous system that they have. So they're not going to be able to handle it as maturely as us anyway. And the moment big emotions come into that because they're not getting what they want, or they're not feeling heard or listened to, or they are feeling rushed, like any of that stuff, then we are going to see that very quick crumbling or spiraling downwards into, puddle on the floor, saying and doing things that are totally inappropriate or unrelated or incoherent. We see those with our kids. They are not putting that on, okay? Even when, I want to put in a little note here, even when your child is seemingly really still switched on, at what you would call relatively calm and engaged, but they're being very, stubborn, if you want to call it that, even then we do not know, we cannot see what is going on under the surface in their body and in their nervous system. I am a great example of that. When I was a kid, I would look fine and cool, calm, collected on the surface, and underneath I would be literally about to faint. And sometimes I would faint because of my anxiety and my emotional, unintelligence or dysregulation. So I don't want you to think that, no, my child is, I've seen it with my kids. Will be going back and forth over something that they would like and I've said no to, or we can't go there, whatever that is. And I will have to remind myself to be careful that they, even though I'm handling, we're going back and forth and I'm handling myself and communicating, and so is my child, my son or my daughter, even if they are, seeming to kind of work back and forth with me and listen in a conversation, I still have to remind myself that under the surface, they could be very nearly, about to kind of lose it, I can see sometimes tears in my kids' eyes when they feel like they know that they're not going to get their way or get that thing. There can be this like undercurrent of, huge stress, fight or flight kind of thing. So I have to be just really mindful of that. So as I was saying before, and then I got totally distracted, what to do in the moment with either one. Number one, dial up our own emotional intelligence. Like I said, turn our focus inwards so that we're noticing, am I getting really frustrated here? Like, am I about to lose it? Because I can feel myself, building. Remind yourself of whatever mantra you need to tell yourself about your child and their under construction brain, or the fact that they're overwhelmed, or that they're doing the best they can with the brain they have, and it's not a very good brain. What do you need to tell yourself in those moments to kind of maintain that sense of, okay, I've got to be careful here, or I've got to be mindful. I'm the adult, I'm the healthy adult, and that's my child who is, going to be struggling in this moment, or maybe is already past struggling and is melting down. Sometimes we might need to remove ourselves if we are getting to that point where we're going to jump in the pool with them, or, start yelling back, or whatever that is. That's, I think, a conversation for another episode. So I'm going to leave that one there because I want to move on to kind of maybe point 3, I don't know, is co-regulating with our kids. So that means holding space for them and their emotions to be released. That might not be saying very much. It's usually more being than doing. So being near your child if you can, calm, keeping yourself calm with saying whatever you need to say internally, maybe externally. Sometimes I've said to my kids, I can see you're having a really hard time. I know that this is really tough for you. I'm going to keep myself calm. I'm here for you and we'll get through this together. I don't know, some version of that. Sometimes I say that. It helps me. I'm saying it half as much for me as I am for my child. So yeah, co-regulating, holding space for those emotions to come out. And we can also look at, how do we do that safely so that we can allow the emotion and yet not allow any and all behavior, because some of that can be, dangerous or hurtful. As soon as we are able to and they will allow, then ideally we want to reconnect with them. You have to wait until they're ready. Sometimes I'm checking, I check with my son or my daughter and I'm like, can I come over? Can I sit next to you? Do you want a hug? Do you want to talk yet? Do you want to come and have a drink? I'm not like firing those questions at them, but I'm checking in, but also I need to realize, am I somewhat calm and regulated? Or am I kind of hovering near that red zone, so to speak? Because if I get a look from them, one of those looks, or a no, or go away, then is that going to send me over the edge? So, we have to be, it's like a fabric that is interwoven with so many things that we need to be aware of, right? It's very often this is a messy process. And I want to say it's a human process too. You're not going to get it right all the time. I certainly don't. So, and the last thing I want to say is, maybe this is a bit controversial, no punishment ever. Do not punish your kids for having a meltdown, and do not punish them for having a tantrum. I know that can sound really hard to do, maybe impossible. Maybe you might think, but how will they learn? Oh my goodness, I've got lots of, I'm just going to say head over to my Instagram because I've done a lot of reels recently and posts on that. And you can find my Instagram in the links below in the show notes and everything. But, go on over there because I talk about why we don't punish kids and why we teach and coach them instead. So of course you can have a conversation after a tantrum or meltdown, after that blow up has happened, after everything went pear-shaped and maybe they yelled, you yelled, and it was just awful. So you can 1000% have a conversation. I actually make a point of it that I always do with both of my kids. Sometimes they're yucky and sometimes it doesn't have to be long. They don't want to hear most of it. But if you pick the right time, like for us, it is kind of tuck in at bedtime when kids don't really want to, they don't really want to go to bed unless they're exhausted. They don't really want to go to bed anyway, so they're always up for a chat. But it's a snuggly one and it's a non-judgmental one. And it's a, let's work out how we can do that a bit better next time kind of one. So yeah, no shame involved. But zero punishment. If I can hammer that home, then that would be amazing. So tantrums or meltdowns, I don't see a difference. Yes, they may start out differently, but something else I want to point out, we do not know what, everything that is going on underneath our child's iceberg. When I talk about that, I'm sure I have blogs and articles I've written on it. I am sure I think I have YouTube videos on the iceberg, but just quickly, it's, everything that's kind of swimming underneath the surface with our child that they have experienced that day or that they're going through or that's happening for them, which is kind of setting the bar for their nervous system. So things, actually there's a whole chapter in my book about it, which is called From Chaos to Connection. So in my book, I talk about things under your child's iceberg can be, I'm just going to reel off a couple. They've had a previous argument. They've skipped their lunch, so their blood sugar is a bit low. They had a bad night's sleep, so they're running on a few hours sleep. Grandma's in hospital, so that's kind of in the background worrying them. Their favorite teacher has been away for 2 weeks. mum and dad are stressed over, I don't know, work, money, whatever is happening. All of that stuff is iceberg stuff. Okay, please know that icebergs are underneath they're underneath for us as well. Okay, so that's something that I think we can sometimes have a bit of an idea about, but we don't always know 100% of the things that are going on for our child. Maybe something happened at school or daycare that we didn't know about, that the teachers didn't even catch, or a conversation with their friend, or a test coming up that you didn't know about. So tantrums and meltdowns, whatever that looks like, it could be in teens, it could be in toddlers. We just need to treat them with love and kindness, with empathy and compassion, and with the same patience that we would to another adult, maybe to our partner, right? So I'm going to leave it there. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I think it's really important to see our child's behavior, especially those challenging behaviors, through the right lens, so that we're coming from a place of somewhat understanding and compassion and wanting to help, rather than the judgment and the shame and the, I'm not helping you, you should know better than this, you're putting it on, that kind of punitive, unhelpful, maybe damaging lens, right? So we don't want to go there. And another reminder, no punishment. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Please stay tuned for, another episode next week. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. I have some exciting guests coming up that I am interviewing now and have been interviewing. So these are going to be some pretty cool people coming on to talk about all things related to parenting, raising kids, emotions, behavior, even feeding, eating, sleeping, all of that stuff. So yes, I will see you guys very soon. Have a great rest of your week and take care.